1, 2, 3, go. So when we begin digesting these emotional signatures, they have a nutrition to them. And this nutrition is really important, because it's a nutrition that enables us, A, to respond to this experience in a way that is not interfering. And it's a nutrition that enables us to perceive the vibrational food, right? And what that's about. Because in this world, while the emotional body is shut down and we don't have emotional body awareness, we believe we have to make peace. Making peace is another sign of delusional behavior, right? And we can see this delusional behavior. It's very well reflected in our leaders, and that's why they annoy us, because they are the greatest mirrors that we have, right? And so what our leaders do is they say we need to make peace, and they say, this is how they make peace. You all shut up and sit still. And if you don't shut up and sit still, we'll send someone to shut you up and sit you still, so that we can have peace. Right? Because it's a belief that peace is acquired through physical circumstances, through rearranging physical circumstances. Right? And that if I can change the physical situation I'm in, I can make peace. We also have leaders that say, you bring your manifesto, and I'll bring my manifesto, and we'll sit together until we come to some agreement, some compromise. And when we agree, we will sign it in front of the media, and hell is a toilet, there shall be peace, right? But peace was never attained through agreement, because peace isn't something that you attain through agreeing. It's not a mental concept. Peace is a vibration, and we can either feel it or we can't. And if I cannot feel the vibration of peace, I will try and make it happen through the stories I tell. I'm at peace, I'm at peace, I'm peace, I'm really a peaceful person, I'm one with the world and peaceful, 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 right? That's the mental, right? Until I can get myself to agree with myself that I'm peaceful, right? Or I will rearrange my physical circumstances. Okay, I'll be at peace if you don't sit there, and I'd prefer it if you would sit over there, and I'll be more peaceful about what's going on here, right? But actually, peace is a vibration that has to be felt. That's the thing about the vibrational. Need some water? Okay. Because I got a whole lot right there. So if I am shutting down my fear, anger, and grief, my imprinting, if I'm sedating and controlling it out of my awareness, by sedating it and controlling it, I'm simultaneously stopping myself from feeling. When I don't allow myself to feel what's going on, I don't allow myself to feel. I close down my feeling capacity. And when I close down my feeling capacity, I cannot interact with the vibrational at all. I can't feel. Also, my behavior is when my emotional body, the nutrition out of the emotional body enables me to navigate through this current experience in a conscious way. It's hard for us to see where our emotional stuff is, because we don't have that insight, right? We don't have that emotional body awareness. It's not well developed. Yet we all have the fear, anger, and grief. But it's very obvious in our outer experience where it is, if we know how to look for it or look at it. So for example, wherever I'm unable to make decisions, I'm so indecisive. I can't decide on, I can't decide, right? I can't stand there and make a choice. That's where my fear, that's a manifestation, an outer manifestation of my fear. If I'm afraid, I'm constantly running from this charge, and when someone is running, they can't stand still in the unfamiliar and discern what is appropriate. I can't make choices about what is appropriate while I'm afraid. I'm just running, right? So there's no discernment. When I integrate my fear, I develop the capacity to be discerning. It's the same with anger, right? Anger is a very powerful friction. It's the most powerful friction in the emotional body. And friction is very useful. When a train needs to move along the rails, it needs friction. The wheels must grip the rails. There must be friction between the wheels and the rails so the train can move forward. There must also be a way to apply friction to the wheels so that the brakes can be put on. When I am angry and I do not know, there'll be all sorts of places in my life where I live with the brakes on. In other words, there'll be places all in my life where there is no movement. Anywhere in my life where there is no movement, that is a manifestation of my anger. Where there's no movement in relationship, no movement in finances, no movement, that's the anger, right? And the fear of the grief, those places in my life where I say, I'm not dealing with that. Sorry, I'm having nothing to do with that, right? No. When I do energetically do that to anything, that's my grief. That's my grief. That's a manifestation. And when I sit with the charge within me, and I allow myself to be in the charge, and I go through a movement, I allow that to move to a point of resolution, those predicaments, the indecisiveness, the lack of movement, the inability to feel deeply without falling over, all of that shifts outside of me. Right? I'm able to assert myself. So if I'm angry, I can only be aggressive or depressed. If it's unintegrated, I can only be aggressive or depressed. But when I integrate my anger, I can assert myself in the world. I can put things into movement without putting other people onto attack or defense. I just purely am able to assert myself. When I integrate my grief, I'm able to feel things deeply without falling over. Right? And the vibrational is a lot of feeling. I can't enter the vibrational unless I have a capacity to contain it without falling over. Right? If the peach tree can't contain the peaches, you give it all those peaches, it'll just fall over. Because the containment is what it's about, developing the capacity to contain these vibrations. The profound thing is that each of us have come into life with an imprint, an emotional imprint in the first 7 years of our life, which translates into the spell of fear, anger, and grief. We call it that. That's its manifestation to us. But we each have the exact amount of fear, anger, and grief within us, that when we allow ourselves to feel it, fully feel those signatures, fully digest them, the digestion process of being with those feelings awakens our felt perception. It awakens our vocabulary of felt perception. And it's through the vocabulary of felt perception that we engage with the vibrational. That we have the capacity to feel the peace that's already in the world. Iraq is at peace. Remove all the people and you'll see how peaceful it is. The peace is always there. It's not about making it. It's about realizing what's obscuring it. What's going on in Iraq, first of all, it's an exportation of anger. Right? For example, in this world, this is one of the most angriest countries in the world. Right? Angry. Right? There's an immense amount of anger here. Here, you're allowed to be afraid. In fact, be very, very afraid. We have medication for you. And we will install surveillance everywhere to help you out with that fear, right? You're allowed to be sad. You can be as sad as you want. We have all sorts of medication to help you with that. But you're not allowed to be angry. And if you don't believe me, go and try it out in an airport. Go and stand in an airport and be very sad. Someone will come and help you out and give you a tablet or something. Go in an airport and be very afraid. Someone will help you out and do something for you, give you medication. But go in an airport and be angry. And you'll be lucky if you get out alive. Anger is not allowed. No one is allowed to be angry. In fact, the anger is exported to Iraq. Just like I export it out of my experience and put it on my boss. He's responsible for my anger, and that's where the anger starts and ends. Even though I'm angry, I don't see it as having anything to do with me. It's him, right? So, digesting that food has a powerful impact on all our experiences. And we're going to look at various aspects of that tomorrow, what digesting that food is. But one of the main things is that it enables us to deactivate the doer. When I realize through experience, because I've got to give myself the experience, when I realize through my experience that I transform my entire relationship with you by not doing anything to you or talking to you, that I have the capacity to do that when I do unto myself as I would have others do, which is what alchemy is. Then when life impacts me in uncomfortable ways, I'm less likely to go into the story and the physical behavior out of the story. I'm less likely to enter the hypnosis and more likely to go into the causal point of what's going on in that moment. I'm less likely to enter doing, and even the thinking, the story is a doing, it's a mental doing. I'm more likely to engage it at the causal point and be with it, because to realize the power of being without condition awakens in me, and that enlivens my state of being. It gives birth, that cradle gives birth to the being, right? It's the birth of the being and the death of the doer. So I'll finish tonight with reframing something from a great teacher. I want to reframe it for you, because when we look at something only from physical eyes, we see it one way. When we look at it from mental eyes, we see it another way. But when we look at it through the eyes of the heart, we see it another way. Right? So there was a great teaching given to us in the last couple of days of this teacher, Jesus, his life. He showed us something which we're only able to start receiving now. When I get upset or set up, which is not really upset, I'm being set up, right? When I get set up by my boss or anybody that upsets me, if I look into myself honestly, the reason I'm so upset is because I have been betrayed. I have been betrayed in that moment. Something has been betrayed, right? And in that moment of betrayal, I've been kissed on the cheek. You just went and kissed me on the cheek, right? That moment of betrayal, there is an unfolding that is inevitable. The first unfolding is going to be that I'm going to come before Pontius Pilate. And Pontius Pilate's going to ask me a very important question. He's going to say, "Are you who they say you are?" Whenever we get upset, we're being asked, "Are you who they say you are? Are you really that person you manufactured out of the emotional imprint? Are you that behavior really? Is that really who you are? The person who goes around trying to feel better. Is that who you really are? Because if you are, I'll let you live. You can just carry on. But if you're not, you must die. And if you don't admit to being that person, if you stay in silence when I ask you that question, then you are going to die. Right? And there's going to be a movement of that death. It's going to go from fear, the physical, anger, the mental, grief, the emotional. So when Jesus was asked, "Are you the king of the Jews?" Of course he wasn't the king of the Jews. That's just a story. Right? And so if he doesn't admit to being king of the Jews, then he has to die. And the very first thing, when someone tells you you have to die, the very first thing that's going to happen is fear. Someone came to me earlier and said, I wanted to do this work and I couldn't because I was so afraid. The very first thing when we approach the heart, when we approach the truth, is going to be the fear. The fear of having to face the fact that we all made it up. It's not real and it has to die. The first step is the fear. Did Jesus go, hang on a moment, I really am the king. I'm a king. Let me out. Containment. No sign of the fear. I require that. I require that sustenance. I require that nutrition. And then the walk of shame. Right? The walk of shame. The realization of all the behaviors of the past, the anger. The walk of shame is about anger, right? As he walks up to the crucifixion, people spit on him, throw things at him, shout things at him. You can be sure he was angry, because if you took such a walk and people treated you that way, you can be sure you are going to be angry. How dare you treat me like this? Right? Was there any demonstration of anger? No. It has to be contained. It's food. It's required. It's required for what's being demonstrated. And then the arrival at this crucifixion. And the crucifixion is an amazing thing, right? Because when you realize what the work of the heart is, the work of the heart is there's nothing more you can do with these hands. Everything you've been doing with them whenever you get upset is just a way to feel better. And that's not going to help you, because it's about getting better at feeling. So hammer those down. And there's nothing more you can do with these feet, because everywhere you go, there you are. I can run from you, and I can end up facing you, and the same thing will come up. So my feet are no good in this game. Might as well hammer those down too. There I am. Every time we get upset, we are being crucified. Right? And if we fight it, we just end up in suffering. Right? And so what happens then at the crucifixion, who's there? There's Mary, there's Mary Magdalene, there's a group of people who don't know what's going on. And you can't explain to them, look, this is okay. This is okay. This is supposed to be happening. This is required. And there's so much grief. Is there any sign of grief? No. The grief I feel, I'm going to contain it. I require it. It's my nutrition, right? And then I'm going to sit with it. I'm just going to sit with it. And it's going to build and build and build. And I'm going to feel as if I'm dying. And I'm going to actually lose all my faith. Because what I'm losing faith in is that doer. That doer is dying. I have to lose faith in that doer so I can awaken to faith in being. And as I lose faith in that doer, I will say things to myself like, why have you forsaken me? Someone help me out of this. It's not working. And we know that he went through it because he said, why have you forsaken me? That's his death experience. And then after that, the awakening to being, right? The raising up of the dead. Because while we live in a hypnotic state, while those people are on stage trying to get cookies and tea, they are dead to the reality that they were in a few minutes ago. They have to die to this to awaken to that. Completely forgot that that existed. In other words, the vibrational has been completely forgotten. What I really am has been forgotten to me. And to awaken to that, I must die to what I manufactured, not what was created, what I manufactured. Because when I was being as a child, there was no value seen in it. There was no, because I was born into a world of doers who do things. And doers only value doing, right? Which in itself was a great suffering for me, right? For us all. And so awakening to that being. And that awakening to the being is through the heart. That's why you've seen that picture, right? Where it's going like this. Not like this. It's this. Go in here to enter the vibrational. Go in here and feel what's going on here. Now this will lead you. Digest this. This is the nutrition. We'll develop the capacity so that the other nutrition, because we've been told, right? I mean, that person even said, you cannot live on bread and bread alone. And then he says, pray for your daily bread. I mean, that's a little bit confusing. So what is that vibrational food? Right? And I'm sure we'll get to that tomorrow sometime. Right? We'll get to that tomorrow sometime. Right? But for now, we just looked at the digestion of the emotional food. And tomorrow we'll look at what it looks like when we start digesting our emotional food. Because there's various levels of it. It radiates through our family. It radiates through our companions. It radiates on all levels of our experience, right? And we'll take a look at that tomorrow. And those of you that are not coming tomorrow, I would explore the website, right? Go on that website and explore it. Because the things that we're going to be discussing tomorrow, a lot of it's there. Just go and explore it and enjoy that, right? It's already given, right? So it's all free, so just click onto the website and receive it. So we're going to leave it there for tonight. I think that's a good place to take us to have a juncture there. And tomorrow in the morning at 10 o'clock, we'll continue the journey however it starts and wherever it takes us. And thank you all for coming tonight. Much appreciated. Thank you.